Gen X parents didn't pass these 11 forgotten life skills down to their kids. If you're a Gen X parent, your kids are probably either grown or you're getting pretty close at this point. Mostly, I think we did okay, right? We took our feral, independent natures and instilled confidence and passion in our children, but we also might have forgotten a few things in the process. Things like the power of unsupervised play. Gen X kids basically raised themselves. I mean, most of us were turned out of the house in the morning and told not to come home until the streetlights came on. We made up all the rules along the way. But when we became parents ourselves, it's like we put our kids in full lockdown mode. We watched them even when they were in our own backyards. We carefully scheduled activities and we made them use GPS trackers. And here's a note to my kids. If you're watching this, don't turn off your Life 360. Okay, thanks. The result is we now have young adults that haven't had the opportunity to experiment with independence and grow life skills that come from getting into a little trouble now and then and navigating the world alone. We also didn't practice communicating during family check-ins. When Gen Xers were kids, they didn't grow up with these family therapy-style check-ins. We were just told to go to our rooms until we were ready to behave. So when it came time to raise our own kids, deep emotional conversations weren't exactly second nature. Many Gen X parents struggle with vulnerability, meaning open dialogue at the dinner table is more rare than a family meal where everyone is just looking at their phones. Kids of Gen X parents didn't learn how to budget with cash. Remember checkbooks? Yeah, neither do most Gen Zers. Gen X parents grew up watching their own parents balance household budgets with cash and paper bills. But now everything's digital, so our kids just swipe a card or tap their phone and hope that there's money in the bank account. Financial literacy? More like, let me Google what APR means real quick. Kids of Gen X parents cannot navigate the world without a phone. Gen Xers learned to read maps because we had to, but if Google Maps glitches, our kids are completely lost. Ask a stranger for directions? Yeah, right, they'd rather take their chances with wandering lost in the woods for the rest of their lives. Many Gen X parents never got around to teaching their kids basic navigation skills, and honestly, why? Except technology isn't infallible, and it's only a matter of time until that phone battery reaches 0%. Gen X parents didn't pass down self-soothing skills. Gen X kids were just expected to deal with it. We weren't supposed to cry. I remember vividly my dad telling me not to cry in front of him, and feelings were off limits. Because of this, teaching our kids emotional regulation wasn't exactly at the top of the to-do list. Now many of our kids struggle to handle stress without distractions, which is why a simple inconvenience can spark an existential crisis, or, at minimum, result in an overly dramatic social media post. Fixing basic plumbing issues is a forgotten life skill as well, that kids of Gen X parents just don't know how to do. Once upon a time, if your sink was leaking, you learned how to fix it because you had to, or else you were stuck listening to that drip, drip, drip all night long. These days, YouTube tutorials exist, but most young adults just call the landlord or their parents, which, to be fair, I as a Gen X parent also cannot fix a leaky faucet. Gen X parents busy with work and life never passed down any DIY home repair skills. So now an entire generation is paying professionals for things a wrench and some basic knowledge could solve. And what about sewing? Yeah, right. There was a time when ripping your jeans meant you had to fix them, but with home economics classes disappearing and fast fashion making clothes disposable, many Gen X parents never taught their kids basic sewing skills. Now, a missing button is basically a major crisis. Is the shirt even wearable anymore? So I can sew a basic button and stitch up a small tear by hand, but that's about it. My Gen Z daughter, on the other hand, is teaching herself how to use a sewing machine, so perhaps there is hope for the kids. Sewing might be a little bit more of an advanced life skill, but what about something more basic, like doing laundry and ironing clothes? Laundry should be simple, right? Apparently not. A terrifying number of young adults don't know what all those settings on the washing machine mean. Permanent press? What's that? And wrinkled clothes are just the look now. Forget about ironing. Or you can just be like me and don't buy anything that requires ironing. Problem solved. Gen X parents were often just trying to make sure there was a full load in the washing machine, so we just did all the laundry ourselves, which left our kids totally unprepared for the confounding world of fabric care. Most kids of Gen X parents don't know how to navigate in-person conflict. To be fair, when we Gen Xers were kids, we didn't learn how to properly communicate, so we don't love confrontation. But also, we weren't constantly connected, so we mostly had to hash out our conflicts in person. Our kids, on the other hand, were basically raised by social media, and many would rather block someone than talk things out. Ghosting has replaced confrontation, and actual face-to-face problem solving is rare. This can lead to isolation and resentment later in life. Sorry kids, we fell a little short here. Can the kids of Gen X parents manage rejection? Rejection builds character, unless you've never had to deal with it. Many Gen X parents, wanting their kids to feel supported, stepped in too often. We cushioned failures, argued with teachers, and made sure our kids always felt special, and now some of them completely shut down at the first sign of failure. If we Gen X parents, when we were kids, could survive losing dodgeball in front of the entire 6th grade, ask me how I know, we should have taught our kids how to better handle something as common as a rejection email. Spotting fake news is a forgotten life skill our kids didn't learn. When we Gen Xers were kids, we got our hands on actual newspapers. Well, I mean at least the Sunday edition when it was thrown on the driveway each week. Today's kids get their news from TikTok, and let's just say that not all influencers are credible news sources. Many Gen X parents didn't grow up with social media and just don't know how to teach digital literacy, which means our kids are out here believing some truly wild stuff. Life is different now, but some skills never really go out of style. It's probably time to bring back a few of these forgotten life skills, and soon, before another load of laundry gets ruined or someone gets extra lost when Google Maps crashes.